Okay, so the making of Joel DCP. So I'm making a digital cinema package, a DCP file of Joel, my new feature film, based on the life and crimes of serial killer Joel Rifkin, coming soon. Plug, plug, plug. But I thought I'd do kind of a case study of just the facts of my experimentations with making a DCP of the Joel master, because there's a lot of DCP how-tos and a lot of videos, informational videos on YouTube, but they're kind of dry. They're all just computer screens and very vague. A lot of people dealing in short films as well. But a feature film, well, I just want to go down down the information, just the facts. Really kind of briefly, and just to give you an idea of some of the file sizes, the times, and everything. And may not apply to your movie, may not be interesting to you at all. Your mileage may vary, but this is just kind of what I went through. Joel's an 84-minute feature film. The current master file is a 101 gigabyte ProRes 422 HQ QuickTime movie. So we start with that. That's our master file, a basically 100 gigabyte ProRes 422 HQ QuickTime movie master. I transferred that file to a USB 3.0 hard drive and connected that to the computer that I'm going to do the DCP encoding on. And this is where I kind of started experimenting, because I didn't want to just install the DCP creation software on my main computer. I was like, what's the kind of the lowest spec, kind of oldest computer that I can do this on? Also, I knew it was going to take hours, so I wanted to kind of, just let it run in the corner, while I go on with my life. And I have this early 2009 white MacBook. Early 2009 polycarbonate white MacBook, 4 gigabytes of RAM, Core 2 Duo processor. It does have an upgraded hard drive. It doesn't have like the original 500 gigabyte hard drive or 250 gig. I forgot exactly what the original hard drive in it was, but it does have a 1 terabyte SSHD, a hybrid hard drive, which is part spinning disk and part flash. It's kind of a cheapy Western Digital SSHD from a few years ago, but it does make the computer a little bit snappier. So onto that early 2009 white MacBook, I installed DCP-O-Matic, which is some software that I installed a few years ago. I think DCP-O-Matic is just the simplest DCP creation software. And so, I just wanted to, again, experiment with it. And so I thought, okay, that'd be a good thing. And it did open on the early 2000s. It took a while to open that file, to verify it. It chugged. That was the beginning of my chugging with DCP-O-Matic. It chugged and it chugged, but it did eventually open. And so I opened up my master in it. And I mean, the defaults in DCP-O-Matic are really good. I mean, what I like about that software is it's very, what you see is what you get. There are a lot of, in the past few years, there are a lot of DCP creation software, and they're very command line. They're very difficult. Either they're very difficult or they're very nice and gooey, but they're really expensive. They're hundreds and hundreds of dollars. DCP-O-Matic is kind of the middle ground. It's very kind of user friendly, but then it's also free as well. It's donationware. So, and you should definitely support those guys, because they're really, it's a really incredible software. So now my master file is very humble statistics, very humble. It's 1920 by 1080, basically HD, stereo sound, very, very basic file, linear PCM stereo, and 1920 by 1080 in that, of course, that ProRes 422 HQ codec. DCP-O-Matic opened it up, understood ProRes, no problem. And I decided to make because in digital cinema packages, just to step back a moment, it's like a digital film print. And there are basic kind of like, just like a film print, there are basic resolutions that these digital projectors run on. They run on scope or flat primarily. And there's a lot of wiggle room and a lot of resolutions, and the new projector is going to, but basically I decided, okay, my movie is 178 That's the aspect ratio, 178:1. It's closer to 185, which is a DCI, a Digital Cinema Initiative, the people who create the DCP spec and the format. These formats are DCI, Digital Cinema Initiatives. That's the group. And so, boy, I'm getting into the weeds here. But the bottom line is that I can't just put the 1920 by 1080 and make a 1920 by 1080 DCP. It has to be a little bit changed because that's not strictly. I guess in some ways you could make a DCP that's 1920 by 1080, but anyway, the main DCP flat 2K format is a flat cropped is actually 1998 by 1080. So it's a few pixels wider. So what I was about to say Open DCP. That's another piece of software. But what DCP-O-Matic does is and I like the way it explains it, is it's just going to pillar box. It's just going to put black bars on the left and right of your 1920 by 1080. And so now you have a 1998 by 1080 it's 2K. It's what the DCP creators consider a 2K flat format. Even though it's not strictly 2000 pixels by 1080 pixels, it's 1998 by 1080. It is a 2K. And so audio, DCP by default wants 5.1, wants 6 channels, but again, DCP-O-Matic very happily says, okay, you got stereo, boom, we're just going to pad out the other channels, and so now you're compatible. And also, there's the matter of frame rate as well, because my master is 23.976, 23.98. It's not exactly the 24p that DCPs run at, though I guess there are some DCPs that can technically be 23.976. But anyway, basically, DCPs have got to be like their film. They got to be 24p. So again, DCP-O-Matic happily says, okay, we'll just speed it up and resample your audio. So basically, we'll just play your 23.976 at 24, you know. And so again, this is very kind of hands-off. You just you enter all this, boom, there's my source file. DCP-O-Matic happily gives you these defaults. And I didn't change the defaults. I'm just experimenting with this, really, And then I hit, okay, start. And it started chugging. And it was averaging between 1 and 0.7 frames per second. It was giving me an average of between 40 and 60 hours, because it was, it has to go through 100, and I wrote it down, 121,979 frames. That was the total, 121,979 frames. And it was averaging between 40 and 60 hours. And so I started this on Saturday afternoon, and it ended on Monday, Monday late morning, and it it just kept going on. I mean, basically, what the DCP is doing, what a digital cinema project is basically it's audio files, and then it's just converting your ProRes video file to a string of JPEGs, basically, of just little image files, JPEG 2000 in a JPEG 2000 format with a specific in a rather specific color space XYZ that these digital cinema projectors can handle. So it's a format that's laid out, and but I mean, it's not the most complex thing in the world. I mean, there were people in around 2014, 2015 who were doing this stuff manually, as I said, in command lines with JPEG conversion utilities. And these are all open standards, WAV files, JPEG files. You think this is. So it's not the most difficult thing in the world, and it's something that really an early 2009 MacBook can handle. I mean, it's odd to think that a machine that's like almost 9 years old right now is it can handle things incredibly well. It can handle modern computing tasks and install modern web browsers and run nonlinear editors and stuff. Really incredible. So the final DCP. Monday popped the final DCP files, which are basically, it's just a folder with a special name, and inside that folder there's some metadata, and there's these MXF, I think it's, what is it, media exchange format. These MXF files that have your stuff, your audio and your JPEGs wrapped in it, and the final size was, I was a little bit worried because it was a little bit under what because everything I'd read is like a 90-minute movie is like 120, 140 gigabytes. My final 84-minute movie DCP feature film was only about 59 gigabytes. That was the file size. It was about 58.9 gigabytes, basically 59 gigabytes. I mean, is that undersized? Is that oversized? I mean, I just left the compression settings to default. And there's a lot of my movies, a lot of negative space. There's a lot of scenes that have a lot of black areas. And so, and JPEGs, it's difficult to calculate the size of a JPEG file because, you can tell, I mean, with just normal JPEG compression, the file size depends upon what the image is. If you had a completely black screen and then a screen like this where there's a person, a picture, they're going to be wildly different file sizes because JPEG tries to compress based on redundancies in the image. So again, its mileage will vary about the size of the final DCP, obviously depending upon the content of or DCP, the content of the images in the DCP. So I don't think 59 gigabytes is exactly undersized. But so the big test, and the test that I've not done yet is, does this DCP ingest, will it transfer correctly to a DCP server, which is the computer that's hooked up to a modern DCP projector, and will it play? I've not tested that yet. The DCP on Mac does make a player, and you can install it, and it's like hundreds of drop frames that the Core 2 Duo cannot play DCP. I had this other video player, MPV, that kind of played little frames of my DCP, but the DCP-O-Matic player was good. I was able to actually play the DCP like windowed, and that was, I mean, it was dropping frame. What I worry about is that it'll drop a frame that's corrupted, and I can't see it. But the frames that I've looked at look beautiful. I mean, it looks really like a stunning thing. So I guess the next challenge is testing this in a theater, or not testing at all, because I mean most theaters today are allow, you can give them the original ProRes or a Blu-ray, and they'll play from it. A few years ago that was not the case. People were, you can't give us don't project on, we will not project on DVD. I remember the early 2000s. We will not project on DVD. I remember when I showed my first movie, Frankenstein's Bloody Nightmare, in 2006 in New York at this little tiny theater. We will not project from DVD. We will project from DVC Pro. If you've got a little, it was videotape in those days. DVC Pro. We will project from, and I didn't have any DVC Pro decks. I was broke. So I did have, I had a mini DV. So I found like an 80-minute mini DV cassette, and I copied my movie to mini DV. And that caused weird because they had a little mini DVC Pro deck, but it had to be put into a special mode or otherwise it would cause all kinds of weird pixelation artifacts. But my movie is so weird, it's so screwed up. They started playing it with these like the big Friday when like everybody was there, like the theater was packed. They started playing this movie theater. They started playing the movie in the incorrect mode, and it was weird. But my movie is so screwed up, I don't think people really noticed. But they did. Ray Privet, the guy who was running it, did realize it, and he's like, oh, that's not. And he was smart. They figured it out. It was like, oh, yeah. And they didn't. And they're like, the movie's so weird. We probably don't need to restart the movie, because there's only like a few minutes where it did that. They figured out really quick. Oh, it's in the wrong mode. So that was the early 2000s. It was even before Blu-ray. It was like we need tape. And this is not that long ago. We go from tape to... In my day, we had to walk 5 miles to the school, and we didn't have ProRes video files. We had to dub things to DVC Pro, and we only had DVD videotape, and it only had low compression levels. We had... this is like an old man get off my lawn type of moment, where in my day, but it is an embarrassment of riches now. We've got these digital formats where you can have 2K or 4K on a little hard drive that you can pick up from Walmart for $70, a little 1 terabyte hard drive. That's insane. That's crazy. Oh, I'm ranting about stuff, but in any case, that's what it was. To recap, we started off as an 84-minute, 101 gigabyte ProRes 422 HQ file, plocked it into DCP-O-Matic, made in 1998 by 1080 DCI flat format, DCP, 121,979 frames. It took 43 hours total, and average between 1.7 frames per second, and the final DCP size was 58.9, essentially 59 gigabytes there. So there it is. Possibly useless information, but there it is.
I don't know her real name. I've just seen her around here and there. I picked her up in Manhattan. Things didn't go so well though, so I strangled her. First thing you learn about these girls is it's always about that narcotic fix. That's their main drive. These girls didn't care about what diseases they were giving out to their dates, just as long as they kept getting that money and kept getting the drugs. The more I think about it, the more it makes me sick. My fantasies were all about strangling. In my fantasies, there was always this girl being strangled. She wasn't fighting or nothing. She was just letting it happen. She was letting this guy choke the life out of her body. And then she just hit the ground like she was asleep. I didn't think of them as dead bodies. They were just things that needed to disappear. After the soul leaves the body, it's just dead weight, right?